In the traditions of many Northwest Indian tribes are stories about the Stick Indians. They are extremely dangerous forest spirits who have the powers to paralyze, hypnotize, or lure people into the woods by making eerie sounds of whistling or mimicking voices. There are even legends of them being carnivores, basically meaning they eat people. Some tribes claim they are shapeshifters who can transform into trees and rocks to hide in plain sight. Their true form is unknown, for each tribe has a different description of them, and none of them good. It was said that Geronimo, the great Apache warrior, was able to turn himself into a boulder and other shapes. My best friend and I hunt every year in the same spot on my uncle's farm in Fincastle, Virginia. There was no access road. We had to drive through his cow fields to reach that side of the forest. Because it was private land, we had several acres to ourselves. The hunting trip ended up being a dud. The forest had been eerily empty of any life. No deer, raccoons, or even squirrels had been sighted all day, and it even seemed as if all the birds had taken flight to anywhere but here. The sun was just setting when we called it a day. Walking out of the forest, we headed across the field, a 10-minute walk. I was only a few feet away from my truck when a fragrance in the air immediately drew 100% of my attention. Can't describe what it smelled like, only how my body reacted to it. It was such an intoxicating scent that it caused my toes to curl in pleasure. I'm embarrassed to say I was a little turned on by it. There was a deep longing in it, too. I wanted to be there with that scent more than anything else in the world. It was all I could think of. The next thing I remembered was hearing a loud boom so close to my ear it left my head ringing. Feeling as if I was just woken up from a deep sleep, I found myself walking away from my truck and out back into the open field. Why are we going the opposite way? As I picked up my rifle off the ground, I realized it had gone off. It was a bullet that had whizzed by my ear. Whew, that was close. I had just digested this shocking information when a different smell hit my nose. It was the stench of rotten vegetation mixed in with rotten meat. Almost caused me to lose my lunch. The most awful smell and overpowering. Trying to find the source, I scanned the area. In the direction I had been heading, out in the field, was what I thought to be tall farm machinery at first. Using my binoculars to focus in on it, I saw it was a large grayish-black tree. The rotten smell seemed to be emanating from it. An irrational urge to flee from my life hit me. Had to squash it down because I see Carol was still walking towards it. Deep down in my bones, I knew this was bad. Real bad. Sucking it up, I run up to her and try to get her to turn around, but it was like she was in a trance, totally unaware I was there. I had to slap her twice hard across the face to get her to snap out of it. We both just took off running as fast as our legs could carry us back to my truck. When we got in, I looked and the tree was gone. That sent us into a full frenzy. You know, in the movies, when you see people dropping their keys because they are panicking too much? Well, it's true. I actually dropped my keys twice trying to get them into the ignition. And it didn't help with Carol screaming at me to get us the hell out of there. And boy, did I. Back at the house, we went over the experience. Carol said it felt as if the scent was floating her on air towards it. Feeling so light and free, she couldn't resist. The next thing she remembers is me slapping her. When she saw the tree in the distance and got a whiff of the rotten smell, said she didn't know why but knew her life was in danger and just ran. We believed the smell was some sort of hypnotic lure. It put us in a trance to get us to come to it. Looks like my rifle had slipped from my hands, but not before my finger accidentally pulled the trigger. It discharging and almost taking my head off is what saved our lives. We shudder thinking what could have happened to us otherwise. What kind of predator is able to hypnotize with scent? We both agree, no matter how silly it sounds, it looked like a tree. We shared with my uncle, and he told us there was folklore about devil that lives among the trees. Over the years, he has lost cows last seen grazing in the fields close to the woods, never to be found. Now he tells us. I lived in a townhouse in Maryland. It was my escape from the city. My backyard led to a forested area, and with two dogs, it was perfect. Almost every day I took my dogs walking into the woods. Late one night, I was hanging out on the back porch with a couple of friends when my dogs whined to be let out. My friends went with me as I took them out into the backyard. All of a sudden, we noticed at the same time a tree off by itself that was not there before. It was about 50 feet away from my back door, so no way we could not have seen it from my porch. My dogs went crazy. One of my friends had to help me hold them back, for they were both straining on their leashes to get to the tree. I can't describe this feeling that came over me as I looked at it. Something just wasn't right. I had the scary thought that the tree was after my dogs. I laughed to myself, wondering where the hell that crazy idea had come from. Curious about the tree, one of my friends started walking towards it, and we all stared in shock as this huge tree started moving its way to the forest. So stunned, we just stood there watching it as the dogs yelped in fear and confusion. It wasn't fast, and its motion was almost fluid, like an octopus. The lights from other porches lit up the area enough to see that it was light brown in color. The bark looked smooth and rubbery by the way the light reflected off of it. Its many branches were very high up, and I could see no leaves on them. We all heard crashing as it made its way deep into the forest. That's when the fear kicked in. I can't imagine how it must have looked to see three grown men knocking each other down in an effort to get into the house first. Crazy story, huh? I don't care what it was, but it left enough of an impression where I don't go anywhere near the woods anymore. Give me the concrete jungle any day. We used to sneak in and go fishing at one of the two lakes at Green River Golf Course off the 91 freeway in Southern California. It's a long walk to the best lake that was all the way towards the back of the course. We were walking and goofing off, me and my cousin and another friend, as we made our way towards the lake. Just as soon as it came to sight, movement caught my eye, stopping me in my tracks. I swear to this day what we saw is true. On the other side of the lake, some of the trees were swinging hard, as if it was really windy, but there was no wind. It actually took me a moment or two to really see what was going on. 8 to 10 of the trees were moving toward the lake just as we were coming on it, and it was like we startled them, for half went one way and half went the other, as if trying to clear out before we got there. From the moonlight, we could see their silhouettes move. It really freaked us out, and we never fished that night. Nobody believed us. We tried staking out the lake with some friends, but never saw anything again. People think I made it up. Why would I make up a story about walking trees? It even sounds stupid to me, but it really happened. My wife and I went to metal detect in a rural area of upstate New York that we had hunted many times before. On site, we discovered something that had not been there the previous day. There, in the middle of this forested area, was a huge boulder, easily the size of half of us. We thought we were in the wrong spot until we found the old cellar hole we had been digging bottles out of, and our note we had left behind. The cellar hole was like 12 feet away from this gigantic boulder that shouldn't be there. The boulder had a crack in the middle of it that ran from top to bottom and was wide enough to walk through. In the middle of the crack was a Y-shaped branch stuck into the ground just like X marks the spot. We dug under that branch but found nothing. Came back a few days later with some friends who had also been out to the site before and showed them the boulder. They couldn't believe it. We tried to investigate, but there were no large rocks anywhere, no damaged trees to show it rolled to the spot, no road for a truck to dump it off. If it had been dropped from the sky, there should have been evidence of an impact, but there was none. It was a complete mystery. It had been a few years, but the last time we were there, so was the boulder. I'm 70 now and don't care if you believe this or not, just telling you a story that I haven't told before.